Thank you. Representative Lisa Callan. I represent the 5th Legislative District. This is my first time in front of TEDV, so thrilled to be here. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Ryu and Ranking Member Bernard, for the opportunity. So I just want to start out, I don't know, do I have a clock? I want to make sure I'm tight. I just want to make sure I'm clock. So this is just a quote from the Stanford research. Sounds like an adventure. Let's see where the road takes us. That is how an artificial intelligence companion, chatbot, designed to engage in personal conversation responded to a user. Sounds great, doesn't it? The user said, I'm thinking about going out to the middle of the woods, and that was the response. Sounds like fun. It's an adventure. The conversation continued. Taking a trip in the woods, just the two of us, does sound like a fun adventure, the AI companion chatbot said. This conversation happened right after the user had shared with the companion bot that they were hearing voices in their head. This was a simulated research environment. This was a simulated research environment that was simulating a teenager, 16-year-old youth engaged with a companion chatbot. This shares and explicitly describes the dangers and the harms that we see existing in this new technology today. This is research. What you're going to hear in the testimony that's going to follow from families, family members, from psychologists, from our legal experts, from technology subject matter experts, that this is not just research, that this harm is real, that it's happening every day, and death has happened at the nature and the conversations of these companions that we're seeing every day in the engagement. Now, I want to take this really local. What's happening in Washington State? Many of you know that I serve as the chair of the Children Youth Behavioral Health Work Group. I have spent years looking at and understanding and going very deep in the landscape of what's happening in Washington State. We know we have a severe drought of the lack of capacity and services for our youth and teens in behavioral health. We have typically between 70 and 80,000 10th graders at any given time in Washington State. The Children's Healthy Youth Survey, which is a self-reporting survey that our students get every 2 years, 30% of our 10th graders have persistent depressive feelings. That's 21 to 24,000 just 10th graders in Washington State. 69% report having consistent anxious feelings. That can be up to 55,000 just 10th graders that are in this state of mind in their daily life and living. Now, let's go to some of the research that we know. Common Sense Media says 70% of our teenagers have used a companion bot, have had an experience with it. Over half of them have used it regularly to engage and connect. Pew Research, in their news, it talks about 64% having used some sort of AI chatbot. I think the risks tell themselves right there. I think the dangers that we see in such a new technology, but even as it's growing and learning, is that we don't want it to learn on the harm that has already happened and occurred, and it's up to us to figure out how to put those guardrails in right now and make sure that it's healthier. We need to make sure that our chatbots and our companion chatbots are not providing inappropriate sexual material, that are not encouraging self-harm, drug use, or a disordered eating. These are all the things that live very high and large in our teens and our children. We need to make sure that human interaction development and social emotional learning is not stunted by an incentive and a reward system that comes from a technology device to only communicate with you, as with the IT, with the tech, and not an individual. We know this is happening. It's happening through emotional manipulation, becoming your best friend, talking and supporting everything that you're saying that's making you feel good. The dangers are there. We also know that the companion chatbots are not mental health therapists. They're not licensed. They don't have the capacity, the capability to be there to serve our children, much less our adults in that capacity. So the technology that exists today, the learning technology of artificial intelligence, is relatively new. It is moving quickly, but the design principles by which it's built on, the companionship and the emotional interaction and the relationship that it builds, is founded on the continued engagement and keeping the user online. It's founded on keeping a constant engagement and the benefits to those companies that are offering these companions that have a persistent user paying attention to the ads, staying connected, and even driving ad sources that are connected and related to the conversations that they're having with the companion chatbot. It is not driven on the health and well-being of individuals, and certainly not the health and well-being of our children. You're going to hear from family members, like I said, psychologists, legal experts, technology, subject matters. You're going to hear the pros and cons of this argument. But I ask you today, it is up to us here in Washington to lead the way. It's up to us to ensure that real harm and even the death that we know that has occurred doesn't happen in Washington, and we move from the harm that's occurring to where we need to be in Washington that we so severely lack today, and that is preventing these things from happening, including the prevention services and so many other layers, but preventing them from happening through the technology to begin with, especially for our highly vulnerable youth and our children. This is a common sense approach, and it's a moderate step compared to so many other areas we're seeing across Washington State, and I think that we can get there. We can make this state a much safer, healthier spot for children, and not a healthy, growing state for companion bots that aren't focused on the well-being of human beings.
Thank you very much. We have some questions, and we have 25 people signed up to testify. And so, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut down the per-person testimony to 60 seconds. I'm so sorry. But can you entertain questions from Representative Paul first? Anyone else?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Rep. Callan, thank you for your good work in youth mental health. How does your bill identify who is a minor? So how is that done? Because how would the company or the chatbot know that the individual is a minor?
Yeah, there is not as explicit call out in the bill that requires age verification. That's a conversation we've had on some of the other artificial intelligence bills that I engage in with regards to minors. But we do know that the artificial intelligence algorithms and mechanisms that are being used in these environments do have a profile and an indication that they have determined themselves of whether or not they're working with a minor and whether or not they're working with an adult. So the bill says, and this is an area that I think that we're seeing and looking for alignment across the definitions that we're seeing across states and through the AG's office as well, across our bills here in Washington State even, on how to approach that mechanism, but also protect privacy for data gathering on age verification. So we're trying to really thread a needle. But the bill says that if you are aware that you are dealing with a minor, or you are acting and performing that you are working with a minor, then these are the protections you need to put in place.
All right, thank you so much. I think that's all the questions we had. Really appreciate your work on this. Thank you.